who are going along and using a video from a guy named Fads. And I'm going to see if I can bring that video up and see what I can do with that. And he does a really great video on dating apps. And let me see if we can get it. Oh, okay. There we go. Give me just a second. And we're going to see. Hold on before we do that. Okay, we see what you're doing. Okay, should we take that down? All right, let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's do it. Okay. Presentation. All right. Just give me a second here. There we go. I just want to make sure we're still on. So, Fads did a wonderful video on dating apps. And to my acknowledgement, everyone, pretty much everyone's been using it to run in their own video to explain it. A lot of the stuff I already explained, but we can go through it and we can go with what's going on here.
So the other day I was thinking about dating apps, right? And I was wondering how they were getting on. And it turns out that they are not doing great. Bumble's actually down 92% since.
Okay, so Bumble, which is one of the major dating apps, is down 92% all time from when they opened. I believe they opened only like a year or two ago on the stock market. They were around, I think, about $20 or so, maybe more, maybe a little more. But they're now down 92% to about $6.12 from now. So not the greatest. So, yeah. It's abysmal.
It first went public, and Match Group, the company which owns basically every other dating app.
Now this is Match Group. This is the big kahuna here. They own Tinder, Match, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, Hinge, and all the other little ones underneath that. Our Time, Black People Meet, Upward, Black, Crispa, which is a Spanish dating. They own all those. So they're running them all basically the same. And let's see what they do with them.
Is doing pretty badly as well. People are falling out of love with dating apps. And this is affecting Gen Z in particular, who are becoming less likely to spend money on the apps. In fact, Forbes Health ran a survey and found that 79% of Gen Z respond. You might have even seen that the companies have resorted to some interesting marketing techniques. For example, Bumble got in trouble for some ads that they ran trying to convince women to no longer be celibate, I guess. People weren't too happy with these adverts. Now, this is a far cry from the promise that dating apps made for us. When they first launched, it would be difficult to believe that around a decade.
Why did Amazon send me $20,000? Because I use Amazon AI. I'm going to show you a way to potentially make money.
Just giving me an ad.
Later, they'd be launching $500 a month membership programs. If we try to understand how we ended up here, we maybe can come to some interesting conclusions, not just about these apps, but maybe about human relationships more broadly and the assumptions that we might make about each other. The first thing that's worth explaining is that
something that he just brought up. Yes, Tinder was offering a $4.99 invite only plan. Was supposed to get you to the top of the line, offer you a whole bunch of special services and all that stuff for the price of $4.99 monthly membership. It was supposed to be basically like a VIP treatment for you. I don't know how it went, but with their stock price going down, my guess is it is not going too much. It's not going too well, I should say.
The decline is in large part a signal of broader trends in technology. There's this idea of phenomenon of online platforms trading.
I love this word. And shitification.
The quality of services really broad across technology. It is best characterized through Airbnb, starting initially as a promised land where you could rent out a spare room at the fraction of the cost of a hotel, but ending up in a situation where people are paying $200 cleaning fees and have curfews and service fees for a rental. The most egregious example of enshittification is BMW, who in 2022 launched a subscription to just unlock the heated seats that were already in the car. Dating apps are not immune to this problem, as fundamentally they are.
So enshittification is basically a site starts up, tries to fix a problem, tries to bring something better to the situation. As he states with Airbnb, they were trying to have you pay less than hotel prices, and basically you're using the same amount of space at someone's house. Now, it was going well until all these added fees came on, and it turned out you were basically paying the price of a home than more of a hotel room. And things really got screwed up from there. That's basically what, they're basically trying to monetize it more than actually delivering the service.
Technology companies. The most obvious manifestation of this enshittification is the idea that subscriptions are king. I don't know if you know this, but Tinder actually has 3 separate subscription options on top of the $500 a month subscription plan. These look more like insurance plans than dating apps. Dating apps have not become immune from this subscription mania, and their monetization strategy has led to them feeling more like a gacha game. If you don't know what a gacha game is, it's a game that uses like a loot box mechanic where players buy in-game currency and use it to gamble effectively. In fact, Tinder actually rolled out its own in-app currency that you could use to buy special features that would increase your chance of finding love. It's a very overt shift towards gamification, towards implementing game-like mechanics in a non-gaming environment. The literal CEO of the parent company of Tinder is a man named Bernard Kim, who was the former president of Zynga. If you don't know who Zynga are, they are the company that is responsible for all of the worst mobile games.
Okay, so the CEO of Zynga also creates these games, and I don't know about you, but I have at least one of those, or did have one of those, on my phone. So if you've played these games, Empires and Puzzles, Merge Magic, Toon Blast, Toy Blast, these type of games, the CEO that ran the company that created these games is now running Match. Think about that for a minute.
The ones that look like this, right? And it's no surprise that these mechanics have been transferred directly from mobile games, which are some of the most addictive games in the world, to dating apps. This idea of gamification, broadly put, is simply just driving engagement and driving usership, not by providing a service, but by hijacking your brain's reward circuitry and making you addicted to the app rather than enjoying the app. As these apps have become increasingly gamified, people have responded much how they would respond to an actual game, by trying to exploit the mechanics of the game. In the world of dating, this manifests as hinge hacks. So there's this whole world on TikTok, which I didn't know about, of people sharing techniques and tips that you can use to make your experience of using dating apps a little better. Some of these things include refreshing your Hinge feed by threatening to delete your account, which supposedly flags Hinge and makes you way more likely to show up in other people's feed. Other people's decisions have been things like choosing to use AI wingmen to create a profile that is optimized for these algorithms. End certification isn't necessarily a complete explanation, though, because despite the fact that many other services in technology have been getting worse and worse, the companies seem to still be doing great. And there are some unique dynamics of these apps that make them especially prone to collapse and that can help us understand the mass exodus. Part of it is simply the fact that these apps promote the idea that they'll literally change your life. Hinge, for example, markets itself as the dating app designed to be deleted, which is an extremely big promise. It's a promise that I personally, as a cynic, feel like isn't necessarily true. Hinge is owned by a $9 billion company. So, I don't think they want you to delete any of their apps. I should mention that I tried to consult a variety.
And that's a big problem. They're now businesses more than dating apps. So if you leave, they no longer are bringing in money. They're bringing in hopefully new subscribers to replace you. But if they can't, they lose you, they lose the money. And that's something to start thinking about now, especially with any of them that are owned by the Match company. That's a big thing right there.
Variety of sources. And sometimes that leads you, especially with dating, down some uncomfortable rabbit holes. And so I want to maybe address a few preconceptions that people can often have after having had a bad experience with dating apps. They're not an enjoyable experience for anyone, regardless of gender identity. Around 80% of women report feeling some level of burnout, and around 74% of males report feeling some kind of burnout as well. The unenjoyable experience is pretty evenly split across the aisle. We have some very different problems that occur, but no set of problems is one more significant than the other. Interestingly enough, men outnumber women 3-1 on Bumble and Tinder, and yet women report higher rates of negative experiences.
Which I have pointed out before. There's far more men on these dating apps than women. So yes, a woman is probably going to get 100 messages versus one for a guy. It's the way the statistics work out on that one.
That's not to invalidate the fact that men obviously have incredibly high rates of negative experiences, but rather to emphasize the fact that nobody enjoys the experience of dating apps. The grass isn't greener on anyone's side. Men are far more likely to experience feelings of rejection, feelings of being ignored, whereas it seems like the issues that women report are more.
Why are you not investing in taxes?
Okay, we're going to
no, seriously.
that.
Why are you not investing into one of the most...
There we go.
Well, they're different. They're different at least, right? So a 2023 survey found that over half of women under 50 who'd used dating apps had been sent a sexually explicit message that they didn't ask for, which I think is an insanely high statistic. But generally, the issues that lead people to feel burnt out are more broadly the failure to find a good connection, being ghosted, being lied to, feeling rejected, and having boring or not substantive conversations. Now, let's maybe understand a bit more about the user experience and what kind of leads to these super high rates of dissatisfaction, and whether dating apps are actually benefiting from this or not, because it seems like they aren't benefiting from this huge level of dissatisfaction that people are experiencing. I want to explain a little term from economics called adverse selection. Planet Money wrote a little piece explaining how adverse selection might be an important factor in understanding why dating apps have gotten so bad lately. It's possible that dating apps face adverse selection. Basically, a new app starts up and hopeless romantics looking for real love begin flocking to it. But so do sleazy types who lie on their dating profile. Over time, the earnest daters go on a bunch of bad dates, encountering people who have no interest in real relationships or whose profiles are completely misleading. Like lemons driving good cars out of the used car market, maybe sleazeballs push great catches out of dating apps and ultimately ruin the quality of the whole app experience. So people go to a new app in the hopes of finding something better, and the cycle starts again. This idea of adverse selection is basically the idea that people can take advantage of, the meta on dating app to promote themselves as something they're not, and ultimately lead honest, well-intentioned users to feel like the apps don't have any other honest users because they're only interacting with people who know how to game the app. This is this whole idea of,
And I want to step in with that too. Also, that is why you cannot single out people on a certain issue. because the people you may single out may actually be some of the good ones. And maybe that issue isn't as big as you're thinking it is, versus if you single out based on an issue, you may end up singling in all these bad people that are not going to fit you at all. Like I've said in the past, it's very easy to lie on these. It's very easy to make it look like you're something else. And if you're only looking for that certain, personality type, or that certain look of the person, or that certain figure that they're at, you might actually be bringing in more bad than good. So,
Hinge hacks or using AI tools to beat the system, it doesn't necessarily make you a better person on a date, but it makes you more representative of what the market supposedly looks like to someone who's just downloaded the app. And it makes people who download the app feel like everyone is awful. There is a way to actually minimize these bad apples. This is something that's actually been done before. If you can give the users as much information as you can, they can make more informed decisions, right? That's intuitive. However, the more information you provide to those users, the harder it makes for the app to be gamified, because they can't rely on the fact that you don't know things about other people. This is most clearly shown in the fact that Hinge's premium program, Hinge Plus and Hinge X, they both allow you to actually add more information about yourself. They allow you to filter your dates by location, by activity, and to fine tune exactly what you're looking for, which inevitably leads to a better dating experience and reduces this problem of adverse selection. And this isn't just theoretical. We can take the example of OkCupid, which has actually gone through a bit of a transformation from being a dating app that dealt with this problem of bad apples a lot better than the new school of dating apps, into gradually becoming another Tinder clone. I found this comment of someone who described their experience, and I think it captures quite well what's going wrong with these apps. OkCupid used to be really great before they were sold off to Match. Match is the company that owns Tinder and Hinge and all of the other ones. It was a pretty simple concept that worked really well. Start people off by forcing them to answer at a minimum like 25 matching questions around things like politics, religion, handling money, hygiene, etc. Core factors that people would consider when dating, essentially. But the kicker was that you also got to specify how you would like your potential match to respond to the same question. And you got to weight that response based on how much you cared about that particular question. After about 25 questions, you could always get a large enough sample size to match people, but it worked best at matching people that had answered over 100 questions each. It was like magic. Anyone with over an 80% match on that site always ended up being a surefire, amazing conversation. What this person is describing, without necessarily realizing, is this idea of adverse selection, right? The idea that just by having more and more information about who your potential matches are in terms of their interests, their likes, their personality, you can basically make dating apps be fantastic. However, the issue with that is that they can become a bit too good, right? And you end up in the situation where every person you match with is actually a pretty good person, and you're therefore extremely likely to quit the app. The ideal situation for these apps is this weird middle ground where they want you to find someone you like, but not too often, and not someone that you like too much, because then you delete the app. But they don't want you to have zero matches, because that means that you'll delete the app super quickly. That's kind of the optimal model of a dating app, what's called a variable ratio reward, where you get a reward at an unpredictable interval, and you get that's big enough every time to keep you chasing the next one, like a slot machine. And they're playing this like balancing game, and they're clearly not doing a very good job at it. When it comes down to it, ultimately, people want what they've always wanted, which is meaningful connection with others. And I think the real danger here is that people have been generalizing their experiences on dating apps as broader generalizations of how, quote unquote, society is today. And I think that's a big problem, because I would hope that most of us understand that, say, social media isn't necessarily a one-to-one representation of how people behave in real life. If you took Twitter posts, for example, to be the representation of how everyone behaves in general, you'd be scared to go outside. If you took Instagram Reel comments, you'd think everyone was incredibly racist all of the time. It's an algorithmic mirage. Yeah, exactly. It's an algorithmic mirage, right? These algorithms are so capable of building a mirage that makes you think that what they are showing you is simply a direct representation of what reality is, when it's been filtered through layers and layers of algorithms and psychology in order to fundamentally change how you interact with it. The good thing that we can take home from this is that people are ultimately voting with their wallets, which is by far one of the most effective ways you can actually create change. There's a big trend, you might have seen it, of run clubs now. A lot of people are joining run clubs in order to find love. And this to me is ultimately a good thing. It means that people are actually choosing to create their own alternatives, which is exactly what we need right now. There's many, many angles you can approach this from, but ultimately the biggest reason they're doing so badly is that they're not providing the service that they promised. The collapse of dating apps doesn't mean the collapse of romantic love. It means that it's actually going to spread a bit more towards the places where it needs to be, towards these organic spaces. But then again, I'm also incredibly single. So, you know, take my words with a grain of salt.
But he has a good point right there at the end. He has a good point. It may be time to get off of the dating sites, especially the ones that are owned by Match. Those are going to be some of the worst, simply because they're too big of a company now. They have to be able to maximize the profit to keep the shares going up, and they're not doing that right now. And so now they're trying to find a new way to do it, a new way to pull you in, and okay. So how is it going to be? I don't know. Bumble was actually doing a speed dating type process last year. So it would start at 7 o'clock on certain days. You would go in, it was about an hour altogether, but you'd have a 3-minute conversation. There'd be a timer, and you would actually just talk in text to other people. And if you ended up matching at the end, then you could see their profile, they could see you, you could message each other, and you could do that. So do they bring something like that back again? I don't know. I think it was a good thing to try, certainly. But going out in real life and trying speed dating in real life, going out with friends to social places, joining clubs, that is what seems to be much better way to go out and actually meet someone. Will you meet someone who's perfect? No. Will you meet someone who maybe matches more of what your interests are? Perhaps. But certainly a lot better than simply just throwing, $25-30 a month at this computer app, hoping that something's going to happen. And, you know, it like I say, like he says, they're just trying to keep you there long enough to keep you going. Like at a slot machine in Vegas, he brought up that example. They'll give you a few matches, maybe even someone who actually does want to talk to you, and it won't really go anywhere. Either they don't want to go out, or they start saying, oh, they've got other things, they're very busy, but they're trying to dedicate more time to you and then never do. And situations like that where, okay, maybe it turns out, you know, you guys didn't discuss religion in your profile and you guys have opposing religious views, stuff like that. It's just enough to keep you there without really bringing you in with somebody. And like I said, I've seen it. They will only put out specific people to you to get you to buy into the service. Then some of them may actually give you somebody to talk to, and some of them may not. And I think they really trigger every little thing to send you certain people that don't match. And so you never really see everybody that's on there. You're only seeing who they want you to see. So again, I've beaten this like a dead horse. I've gone over this numerous times on the shows. Feel free to go back and watch those. And where do we go from here? I think we bring it into real life. Bring it into meeting people. Holiday season's coming up. Christmas parties. There's Thanksgiving. You go home with family. Keep an open eye You never know. You might meet someone. I know it's not a damn Hallmark movie, but, you know, sometimes crazy shit happens. I don't know. So I thought that was a really interesting video in the sense that, you know, they do really kind of make it like a game. It's not a dating app anymore. It's just a game to see how far you'll go in it and how much you'll spend. And it's a pretty shitty way to do things. And henceforth, why you have, you know, guys on videos saying it's so terrible out here and women saying that they can't find a good guy. Well, a lot of it's just the company's not letting you. So it's really terrible out there right now. Don't take it for granted that if you're married right now or you're with someone you've been with for a couple of years, don't take it for granted. Don't think that, you know, it's going to be easy if you get back out there. Life's hard right now in a lot of different ways. So it doesn't seem to be getting easy anytime soon, but work hard at it and something might come through. All right, so holy cow, we've been on here an hour and a half. Gotta start wrapping it up, checking comments. Thank you to the people who were watching live. I saw quite a few jumping in and out. Thank you to those people. If you're watching this on playback, yeah, it's really freaking long. If you want to break it up into segments, go for it. And again, hurricanes coming for anyone in Florida. Please be safe, prepare yourself, get ready for it. This one does look pretty rough. And doesn't look like the government's coming for us. So let's just be open to your neighbor. You know, I was talking with my neighbor earlier today. We were going over how we we're getting ready for stuff. You know, be open to talking with your neighbor, even if you don't really like them. At least, you know, through the hurricane, talk to them a little. Then you go back to being angry at each other later. That's fine. But somebody cuts you off, though. Screw those bastards. I don't care, hurricane or no hurricane. Check your mirrors, check your blind spots, especially if it's raining. Make sure you're driving correctly. Lights on in the rain. That'll really help everything going forward. And I'm going to wrap it up. So, yeah, I'll be back Tuesday, regular time. Thank you for showing up for this emergency meeting. I think we touched a lot of ground here. So, Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. The Angriest Man in Orlando channel. I am the Angriest Man saying, as always, stay angry, my friends.